We have Bini and Hazel from the JYUK ministry. So I'd like to welcome you too, and also the others from the JYUK ministry that have joined us as well. Could both of you just say just a few things about yourself and just introduce yourself for people that may not know you as well?
Bini, maybe if you want to say something first, and then I'll say, and then continue from there.
Hi, so I'm Bini. I live in UK in Chippenham. Many of you know my husband Jomi. And he's got some quite good friends in this group already. I live in a place called Chippenham, which is quite far from London, close to Bristol, Bath. And I like to write, I like to read, I like to experiment with food. And I'd also like take this opportunity to introduce Soumya, who's like also joined us and will be like, helping us with the sessions. And Soumya is she's my best friend. She's from Aylesbury. You're muted.
That's all right. Okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. That's all about me. Unless if you have any other questions, you can ask me. So glad to be here, and I request your prayers. And over to Hazy.
I don't know your husband.
Who doesn't know my husband?
Well, you can check with Prince. I think Prince will be able to let everybody know a little more about Jomi. Yeah. Thank you, Bini. And also to say, Bini has 3 lovely kids. Absolutely adorable kids. So my name is Hazel. Married to Nishan, and we have 3 kids. We live close to London, about an hour out of it. We are relatively new to the UK. We came as a family about 1.5 years ago. I am a physiotherapist by profession, but I've been on a huge career break and a stay-at-home mom at the moment. I love music. I love all things beautiful, art. I do like to read when I can, of course, and I like to cook up healthy snacks for my kids as much as possible. And I'm also at the moment trying to perfect my driving skills because I got my license just about 1 year ago. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. As a Jesus youth, I entered Jesus youth in my university days when I was doing physiotherapy in India. And it's made the biggest difference to my life, really. My husband was a Jesus youth as well in his college days. And yeah, together we are discovering God every day, and especially through the Jesus youth movement. So that's a little bit about myself, and maybe, so if I could just jump right into today's topic of modesty. And I think all the 3 of us really loved your poster. By the way, let me just say that at the start. Unpacking modesty was such a cool way to say it. And maybe I just thought, uncovering modesty, because we're really going to go deeper into this topic this evening. So in the short time, really, we're going to be, try to squeeze as much as we can. So stay with us, okay? And if you're like me, you're probably one of the people who have heard a lot about what modesty isn't actually, and very little about what modesty actually is. So as we begin to reflect on this, we really thought it would be necessary to look at the concept and understand the concept of beauty first, before we jump a little more deeper into modesty. And correct me if I'm wrong, let me know if you disagree, but I think everybody, right? Every person on this earth would like to be considered as somebody attractive, yeah, as somebody beautiful, as someone handsome, as someone who is pleasing, yeah, who is intelligent, who is, yeah, I think all of us want to be considered as someone who's good, not just in our the externals, but our internal as well, the person that we are. I don't think it'd be nice if somebody would say to me, oh, you're beautiful, but I think you're a bit dumb and stupid. No, I think we want to be considered as someone who is good in our entire being. Yeah, someone who's lovely. And I think if we come to the masculine and the feminine, the male and the female, as women, girls, just nod your head if you agree. I think we all, as girls, have this desire to be seen. Yeah, a desire to be pursued, a desire to be chased after, a desire to be wanted. And as guys, correct me again if I'm not wrong, but there is something in a guy that makes you want to, when you see or experience beauty, it makes you want to engage with it. Yeah, it makes you want to reach out of yourself. It makes you want to jump your comfort zone and discover more of this beauty, understand what this beauty is, and enjoy this beauty and lavish something of yourself towards this beauty. Yeah. Yes, hopefully. I'm not too off the mark. Good. And where are these desires coming from? Yeah. And if we had to really honestly ask ourselves, these desires, is it wrong to have this sort of a desire? Is it wrong to want to be considered good, to be considered beautiful, to be considered attractive? Is it wrong to be wanted, to have this desire to be wanted? And I think our Catholic Church has so much of wisdom, and this is her answer to us. Okay, so I'm sure many of us have heard this in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, which says, "Let us make man in our image and likeness." Yeah, let us make man in our image and likeness. So from that, it indicates that, let us, of course, it's God speaking, right? And he's saying, let us. So who is in that us? And if we, go back to our basic catechism, yes, the us is God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. And the CCC really breaks it down for us. God is in reality a divine communion of three people. So stay with me, don't get lost with these these complicated words. A divine communion of three persons. Yeah, he is a communion. He is union of three people. And if this is who God is a communion of persons, and we are created in that image, we very rightly also have this desire to be in communion with someone. Yeah. Okay, let's break that communion word down a little bit. So what happens in a communion of three persons? Yeah. What is God busy doing, the three of them? Yeah, when they're all together, what are they doing? So if we just break it down in simple terms, they are in a relationship of giving love and receiving love and of working in unity, working in complete unity. Of course, it's a mystery, right? We can't get our entire minds around that concept, but God is loving. Within God, there's just love going on. They're just loving each other. They're creating. They are working in complete unison. That's what's happening in that's what we all think is happening, and we're coming to understand that the church is teaching us that this is what the Trinity is all about. And therefore, if I am made like that, I am made relational. I am made to want this kind of love, to give this kind of love, to be in this kind of unity. Yeah, and that's why I'm sure some of us have heard theology of the body, and it says that God has given us a body to make visible the invisible, to experience this, not just in thoughts and in words, but in my body, in my being, in my day-to-day. We are made to experience this love, this unity, this relationship, this kind of relationship existence. Yeah, maybe we just have a moment of silence to let that sink in there. So therefore, coming back to my original question, is it wrong to be wanted to be desired? Is it wrong to be wanted to be pursued? Is it wrong to have that nudge in your heart that makes you want to reach out of yourself and pursue something that's beautiful? Not at all. Reality check, it's God-given. The bottom line, all these desires are imprinted in our very being by our God who made us like him. These are all God-given, beautiful inspirations, instincts. So where does the trouble creep in really? And the trouble creeps in at this. When we stop at the bit of wanting, just looking to receive, looking for our needs to be met, that's where we miss the mark, and that's where we get stuck, and that's where we get disillusioned, and where we're left unsatisfied. When we are looking just for the receiving bit and not the giving bit. Again, in Theology of the Body, John Paul II says it so beautifully. The problem with our pornographic culture, you can call most of the advertising today soft porn. So the problem with most of it is that not that it reveals too much about a person, but the fact that it reveals too little. Too little. It just takes a person, presents the exterior, and that's it. It forgets the interior. And why does that become relevant? Because Gaudium et Spes, I'm sure I've spelled that, pronounced that wrongly. It's a Second Vatican II document. It says, man cannot find himself unless he makes a gift of himself. So in my desires to be wanted, to be considered beautiful, handsome, to be considered attractive, appealing, if I get stuck with just that bit, it doesn't satisfy. So if you look at the celebrities today, I mean, how many, right? I think which was the Indian actor that committed suicide recently, the Bollywood guy.
Sushant Singh Rajput.
Exactly. Yeah. These people have everything. Yeah. They are desired. They are idolized by people. But still, so many of them struggle with being unfulfilled, unsatisfied. Of course, there are so many other reasons for, the depression and the struggle that they go through. But really, ultimately, it comes down to purpose. And when we miss this mark that I cannot find myself, unless I'm ready to receive love and give love, I get stuck. I just get stuck and nothing truly satisfies. So why am I talking about all this and why are we coming to this point? Because really, when we're going to get into the topic of modesty, we have to understand that, the desires we have to be looked at as good and beautiful, it's all God-given, it's all good. But if we stop at just that, we are selling ourselves short. I think we as men and women want to be considered in our entirety as good, the external and the internal. And the only way that is possible is when we allow ourselves to be looked at through the lens of modesty. When I allow my beauty to be revealed, both the beauty of me inside and the beauty of me outside, when I allow it to be revealed through the lens of modesty, then only do my innermost cravings get satisfied. So that leads us to the biggest question of the evening. So what is modesty in itself all about? If this is the lens through which I want my life, if this is the lens through which I can be satisfied, I definitely want to know exactly what it's about. So here I'm going to pass it over to Bini, who's going to take us to real practical implications of this word in her life. So over to you, Bini.
Thank you, Hazel. That was really beautiful. I'm just going to jump right into it because we have so little time. So what is modesty? Very basically, it comes from the word modestus, which means keeping within measure. As far as we are concerned with the purposes of this talk, we need to understand that it is a virtue. It's a disposition of the heart. It guides how one looks at one another and behaves to them in conformity with with their dignity. This is what the Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches. And I'm sure it's very, very, very beneficial to read CCC 2514, Catechism of the Catholic Church from 2514. There are about a couple of paragraphs about modesty and temperance and purity. It's just beautiful, and it will just open your mind to so many new insights every time you read it. So I highly recommend that. I won't say that here, but please do read that. But I want to start off with this, and this is like, I hear this so many times, with this pressing question that everyone has: why do I have to be modest? Why do I have to be modest? Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, if you have decided to be a Christian, it is inseparable from our goal of eternal life. This goes hand in hand with Christianity. We often say the essence of Christianity is love thy neighbor as you love yourself. We have a duty to authentically love ourselves, God, and our neighbor. Okay, it's not a choice, it's a mandate that's been given to us. And interestingly, modesty is like a prerequisite for purity. And I really loved it that Ashley in her praise and worship used this very verse, blessed are the pure in heart because they shall see the face of God. And this is what we are striving to. And if modesty is a precondition of purity, and if we want to see God, then this naturally flows. It has to be there. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says purity enables us to see according to God. And exactly the words that were flowing, I no doubt through the Holy Spirit, while Ashley was doing the praise and worship, it enables us to see through God's lenses who we are, who the other person is, who our neighbors are, and we see them as temples of the Holy Spirit, as a manifestation of divine beauty. Modesty, according to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, protects the mystery of persons and their love. It creates the possibility of authentic love to develop. Just like Hazel was saying, everyone wants to be loved for their own sake, for their whole person, not just for their parts. I love you because you have a beautiful nose. I mean, oh, okay, thank you, but no thanks. I love you because I love who you are. I mean, that's such a wonderful compliment, isn't it? I love you because of you, your whole person. I remember, when I was once comparing for a program back in India, and it was a formal program, and I was wearing a sari and everything. And at the end of the, I tried my best. I did try to crack a lot of jokes and everything. I think I succeeded. I think, partially. At the end of the program, a guy came to me and said, my friend, he came to me and said, "Oh, Bini, you were really sexy." And I was like, it didn't feel like a compliment to me. And he was also like, "Oh, what a way to take a compliment." And I'm like, it didn't feel like a compliment. And that was really revealing for me, because I wish he had said something like, "Your jokes were really bad. You should have looked somewhere else," or, given me some other feedback, made me feel, like he'd actually seen what I was trying to do, make me feel like a person, not like an object, But it was a very revealing experience for me. It really opened my eyes to what we actually want for ourselves as well. We are called to bear witness to the fact that our bodies are meant to be a holy temple, a channel of grace. Naturally, then, we have a duty to protect it from abuse, from manipulation or disorder. We say it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. We are called to glorify God with our bodies. And this leads us to modesty in our bodies. I mean, what is the body really? The body is an expression of the person. You think of all the body language experts that are there. Every time the royal family steps out, we have body language experts analyzing them and saying, "Oh, they were wearing this, they were sitting this way. That means they said something." And why do they do that? Because it reveals so much about the person inside. It's very interesting if you've, especially guys, they like to watch these unboxing videos on YouTube. When a new product comes out or a new review comes in, they go on and check it out. And I've seen Jomi do this quite a lot. But have you seen the way the reviewer unpacks it? He says, okay, it comes in a nice box, this Dyson or whatever, nicely packaged, beautiful, well protected. And they give a lot of commentary on what's going to be inside, but starting on the outside. And what's on the outside and the way it has been presented gives us a good understanding of what's going to be in the inside, don't you think? So, yeah. But many times when we talk about modesty, like, we talk about it in a manner of hiding. We say we feel like we're hiding, and this came up in my youth group as well. And they said, oh, when I think about modesty, I think about hiding myself or covering myself about. But when you change that perspective into protecting, you realize you're actually protecting something really valuable. It's not hiding anymore, it's protecting. The perspective completely changes. You're actually, in fact, revealing your dignity. But the real question here now to ask yourself is, do you realize how precious you are? Do you really feel it in the depths of your heart, what you are protecting? I really recommend this series presented by Chris Stefanik. It's on Formed. It's called The Search. And one of the things that he says in that is, do you know how many generations have had to come together to form you, just you? Like your fathers and your grandfathers and your great-grandfathers and everybody, it had to be, all those preconditions had to be met to form you. I mean, that is how valuable and that is how intricately you have been crafted. So I just recommend you to read that, see that if you can. But when we recognize this truth, it opens our eyes not only to ourselves, but to how we view others, right? How we interact with one another. I mean, if I am made in the image and likeness of God, then Hazel is too, Somi is too, Nikhil is too, Georgie is too. You're all made, you all deserve the same dignity and honor that I attribute to myself, right? This is very interesting because it sheds light on the fact that modesty is not just about clothing. It goes much, much beyond that. Modesty is about inspiring a reaction to the value of a person and respecting their God-given dignity. A friend of mine in the same youth group, he explained, I asked him, what does modesty mean to you? And he said to me, very simply, very, very simply, if I am having an exceptionally great day and my friend has had such a horrible day and he's all down in the dumps and he comes and tells me about it, I wouldn't brag about my perfect day because it's not charitable and it could cause him pain for the sake of my pleasure. This is what we say when it's sort of like a lens that turns out in our head to always consider the other person. It's very interesting, how I met my husband, Jomi. We met in college while I was studying for engineering. And initially when he came, first year, he was this guy who's from just landed, NRI guy in Kerala, just landed from Dubai, had straight hair, all the cool gadgets and everything. I didn't take much notice first, but then a couple of years down the line, I noticed something had changed about this person. All those loud shouts of appearance had gone. He was no longer that guy with the latest clothes and latest fashion, latest gadgets and fashion and everything. And something very simple and humble about him came out. It turns out he attended a retreat, a Jesus Youth retreat, and he encountered Christ. And suddenly, I read somewhere that modesty says a lot without any words. The absence of excesses sometimes, always rather, the absence of excesses says a lot about the person. He sometimes shares with me about this transition, like from being a person who could not speak a word, a sentence, a whole sentence without swearing, to someone now, when he goes to office, people say, oh, okay, well, mind your language, Jumi's here. We don't use that kind of language, or even in the most stressful situations, right? In fact, modesty sets the tone of our relationships. Modesty comes under the cardinal virtue of temperance. And temperance is the balance in the use of created things, like, anything, like food, clothing, luxury, etc. And the thing about a cardinal virtue is you're constantly educating yourself and growing in it. So it's like a lifelong thing that you're constantly trying to improve and understand, and with the grace of God, you have new insights and you grow. It's a virtue, it's like a virtue. And every time you are then ask yourself, like, whatever situations you're in, you start to ask yourself, how do I apply this? Like, in office, it's something that we commonly do, like lunchtime, the women get together and they start, gossiping about things happening in the office, about other people, right? And that's kind of disrespectful to the dignity of that person. And then your perspective starts changing, like, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. That's like literally putting down the other person and tampering with the God-given dignity that they have. Or even when I'm like rude to my kids, when I want to get it done, it's easier to just yell at them. But then taking a step back and realizing that no, that is a bit, that is tampering with their dignity as a person. And you constantly find yourself applying this every day, and this is the manner we try to interiorize this virtue. I'd like to remind you that everywhere it then becomes the guiding principle of our desires and thoughts. And yes, the forms of modesty vary from culture to culture. When I grew up in Africa for a large part of my life, there's a tribe there. They in their day-to-day lives, they're topless. They don't wear anything on their top. In that culture, that is perfectly modest, right? But everywhere, modesty exists as an intuition of the spiritual dignity that is proper to man. Again, I'd like to remind that modesty is not an abstract line, because it's a virtue and you're continuously growing in virtue. If you've attained it, there's no more to grow into. You've already reached, and we know that's not the case. But it's a virtuous direction that we're continuously elevating to, right? St. John Bosco had this famous quote for his little ones, the orphans that he raised: "Make it easy to be good and hard to be bad." I think it would be wise to accept that we're unfortunately not living in paradise where sin and temptation do not exist and nothing can harm us. We're living in a world where temptations and sin are a reality. In fact, modesty is more than simply a means of preventing an occasion of sin for another person. It is a way of honoring God with our bodies. So I am actually inviting you all to start on this lifelong journey of finding out what modesty really is to you, applying it, educating yourself, and trying to interiorize this virtue. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chichi. If anyone has any questions, actually, first thing, if anyone found anything that they didn't think about before, understood something that they hadn't thought about before, if you'd like to, you can share that. And if you have any questions as well, you can say it now as well.
Last week, a few of us had I think, near 3-hour discussion on this, and it seems like a futile discussion because we spent so long and got nowhere at the end. And I think the reason was we were trying to delineate a specific line beyond which is immodest, and on this side is modesty. And I suppose you answered our question that what we were seeking is that it's not a line because it's a virtue that you grow in. It's not a particular line that you cross. So thanks for that. And I really found helpful how you said the invitation to interiorize, to try and apply modesty in various situations, including to kids, because that's not a context in which you really think about modesty. But if you remember, modesty is honoring the dignity of another person, that I suppose we could use that in any interaction with any person of whatever age or sex. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I also find that quite interesting, especially looking at modesty from, it's not just about food and drink and possessions. Self-modesty is even one of the major ones, like living your life as a person. Ambition, in terms of ambition. some people can be very modest in things, in possessions, but they may be so, the ambition can be so high that, you are always struggling. You want to get higher and higher. You want to make higher grades. Being first is always best. Being the best student, making the best grades, yes, beautiful as it may sound, sometimes it's just nice saying, I'm not trying to outsmart everybody. I'm not trying to be the best in everything, but that mental modesty is also a very good virtue. But I think by and large, the two presentations were very apt, precise, and well presented. Thank you very much.
I just have a question. Firstly, just thank you to both of you. It was really well put. And I'm glad, like, it wasn't just about clothing, that you guys looked at it in a general sense as well. One thing Bini said, that you were saying, like, it's not about hiding your body, but it's about protecting. And I've heard that, like, in quite a few places, but it's always kind of, like, tripped me up. Like, what's the difference really? Like, aren't you still doing the same thing, but you're just kind of phrasing it differently,
So there are two things here. One, you're hiding out of, I'm audible, aren't I? Yeah, okay. Yeah. One, it's a very good question. One, I'm not hiding it out of shame. That's the difference. Okay. You don't protect something because you are shameful of it. That's the first thing. You protect something because it's valuable. Now, what are you protecting it for? Who are you protecting it for? Who are you saving it for? Who is that rightful person who is going to receive you in all your goodness as a person, as a complete person, and going to appreciate you for your whole personhood, right? So that's the difference. That's the difference, unless someone else, if that's clear, or if Hazel or someone wants to add more, they can.
Yeah, maybe just to supplement what Bini was saying, I am also protecting it, protecting myself, my body, with the way I clothe myself, for myself, because I want to protect, because it is so good, and not everybody will be able to look at me. Maybe if I dressed in certain ways pertaining to me, that they wouldn't receive me. They wouldn't receive me in my entirety. They would be distracted. They could be distracted. They couldn't value me or receive me in and give me the dignity and that place that I deserve. And therefore, I feel a sense to protect myself from being disrespected and having my dignity diminished, if that makes sense. And therefore, I'm not ashamed, but rather I'm empowered, and I'm coming from a place of strength and of wholeness, rather than feeling that I need to cover up because this isn't good. Yeah.
I also like to share my idea about that, Angela. It's an amazing question. The way you phrased it, it's so beautiful. Like, hats off to you for that. And I mean, can you repeat that question so I can line up my answer properly, Angela?
Angela got stuck earlier on. I think her question was whether you say you're not hiding, rather you're protecting. Isn't that the same thing, just being phrased differently? That was the question.
Okay, my idea is on that is when we say that when we ask our communities, our people, whether it's men or women, to cover them up because we are not hiding, but we respect ourselves, or it is because of our dignity. I think in a way we are hiding, like we are encouraging people to hide, because in a way we give them some idea that if we want to protect our dignity, that you have to wear in a certain way, you have to wear some certain clothes. That as we all know that there are women who get raped uh, by wearing abayas, saris, miniskirts, denims, and anything. There are men who get abused by wearing just sarangs, shorts, and denims. So I appreciate and I agree that we have to be careful when we select our clothes, the way we talk, the way we present ourselves, because the way we present ourselves is a whole package, and we have to respect ourselves. But I don't think that our dignity uh, isn't a limited factor, because when I see a girl who is wearing a mini dress, I cannot say that her dignity is limited. Oh, I don't like to say that she is not respecting herself, because clothes it's always a choice. And modest, I mean, when we talk about modesty, I think we should clarify the fundamental question, like what is modesty, what type of modesty we are talking, and where are we getting our fundamental ideas about modesty. And I mean, whether the church is giving, I mean, I don't expect everyone to agree with me, but I think we should even question the church teachings in a very respectful way, whether they are saying the correct thing, because we know that church is also went through and still going through many transformation. So if we are going to quote something from 1920 or 1935 or 1985, we have to be more careful. And and I mean, Bini, sorry, Hazel, I love the way you talked about that when God created us, He created our desires also. It's a beautiful thing, because in many incidents I have heard people saying that you have to eradicate these feelings, and you cannot accept these things because we are Christians and God might not like these stuff. So when you say that God created us, he created the whole package, so he's going to love the whole package, he is loving the whole package. It's beautiful. And Bini, when you shared your experience with kids, and when you link it with dignity and modesty, it's beautiful. Thank you for that. I'm really appreciating it. One suggestion, Hazel, like when you refer to Sushant Singh Rajput, I'm from Sri Lanka, but I'm a big Bollywood fan. Because of Sushant Singh Rajput, you know that we saw a very bad side of Bollywood, the darker side of Bollywood. And I want to make one fact clear, that Sushant did not kill himself. It is not proven yet. And there are many things behind that. So I think when we talk, like, we need to clarify things and we need to know what we are talking. I mean, since he's dead and he has been passed away, we have to respect him and what happened actually. Thank you so much. And Bini, Hazel, thank you. You did a great job. Thank you.
Is it all right to say something from my side? Can you hear me?
Oh yes,
Yep.
yes, I can.
Hi. So it's nice to see you all. You'll see me more next week, so I'm not going into so much of introduction. But could I first of all say, a lot of us, this topic is especially often reduced to women, and to say that they have to cover up, they have to dress a certain way, or they're responsible for others' actions. And I really want to say, obviously everybody is responsible for their actions. So if anybody in this call is talking from a position of being abused, or uh, and then was told it was because they were responsible, you, you know you are not, and we feel your pain, and we really feel for you, and want to help you on that journey to healing. And please get in touch with us first of all. So if that anybody, and this topic is contentious in the form, even when we delivered it in UK, it has sparked quite a reaction. And we know that many times it comes from a place of being hurt, being talked down by other people, and definitely that's wrong. Okay, so I just wanted to say that.
We have one question from one of the participants here as well. So it's that if the way you dress is culturally determined, how do I know if I'm dressing modestly enough or not? So I'm imagining if someone grew up in a certain culture, it might be a bit more difficult to determine.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it's like, it's a very discerning question. So context is everything. Context matters a lot. You wouldn't go to a church. Okay, I'm going to be very general in the beginning. You wouldn't go to a church wearing a bikini. You just know that's inappropriate, right? So in that place, you have a well-formed conscience, let's hope that there's a well-formed conscience that is there, that will give you the understanding to know that, well, this is not appropriate at this point of time. You wouldn't go to a funeral. You have dress codes when you go to a funeral. You have here in the UK, right? It is a way of being respectful, right, to what is happening. And again, this is where I'd like to remind everyone that there's no single line that you say, this is it's not a prescription. This is what you have to do to be modest. It's like a continuous journey, right? That you're on. Now, in a particular cultural setting, you would know what is being perceived as modest in that setting, and you be respectful of the people there in that situation that you are in, right? And you apply that. And this is all assuming that you have taken the effort to educate your conscience. And we are all Christians, and we're all trying to get there. And but if it's not, I suggest you embark on this journey to continuously educate yourself. And not knowing, ignorance of many things could inadvertently lead us to sin in, or causing some pain to others. But it is definitely not our fault if someone sins on, like, I want to say this because many people think it's not, say that, if someone sins because I was dressed in this manner and I have caused that person to sin, it's not on you, it's on them. Absolutely, it's on them. But you also have that charity. And I like what Jenny has actually put, like, it is your perspective on how you approach this topic. It is not fear. It is not fear of offending people. It is coming from a place of love. And that is something very personal and unique to you. And I'm sure you'll find the answer when you think about it yourself. And somewhere I read, like, I may not be able to instantly pick a set of garments and say, well, this is immodest in this culture, but when I see it, I know it. And again, I'm saying this is, understanding that this is accepting that we are working on forming our consciences at the same time. I hope that clears it. I don't know if I've just been ranting, but I hope that's clear.
That was a very comprehensive answer, so it should clear. But yeah, if anyone has any further questions, you can ask now, or I can imagine if you send in any like additional, if you had some thoughts or confusions even after, we can take a look at those as well after. Thank you, Bini and Hazel, for that wonderful talk.
Sorry,
There's a lot to.
one last thought, is that all right?
Sure, yeah, no, go ahead.
I'm sorry, in the question and answers, it came out like, as it comes out lots of times that it's only an issue for girls or only an issue for boys. And one thing really we wanted to say is that hopefully we managed to cover that, to say that it's for all of us. It applies to guys and girls equally. We are challenged differently. So the traditional challenge of guys are visually challenged, so they have to overcome their challenges on their own. But equally, girls are also challenged, and sometimes we kind of tend to like put it under the carpet. But actually, if you take a funny example, that as a teenager you see some guy that looks good to you, and then immediately you start daydreaming about when are you getting married, how many children you're going to have, and all of that. That's immodest. You're using that person, and and sometimes we tend to like say, oh my gosh, that's just a thought, so that's not, doesn't count or whatever. But actually that is a way we as ladies are challenged not to use somebody that we don't even know. So it's so the clothing thing is the one that stands on the forefront and is always loads of contentious, and we fight about it and stuff. But that is a small part of modesty, and it's a beautiful part to grow into. Really, but firstly, you have to accept that you are loved and you're so precious. And if you're so precious, you're worth being protected. And so is everybody else. And if I go out, I can't just use somebody for my own pleasure, and I don't expect the other person to use me for their pleasure. So it's a topic very much for guys and girls, and I hope we helped a little bit to unpack that. And you surely have to do a lot more unpacking throughout your prayer group, throughout your lives, and we're all on the same journey. So hopefully it has helped a little bit in that.
And if you have
Chichi there, I just
questions,
had one question.
Yeah.
Sorry, who was that?
Go on. Who was that? Sorry.
Yeah, this is Irene. I don't know who that was, but I just wanted to ask. You said about dignity, the way we're trying to protect it, and say if you're dressing according to the culture,
Mm-hmm.
does that mean dignity, the level of dignity changes from culture to culture as well?
No. Not
You
at
have
all.
innate dignity given to you by God, because you're created in the image and likeness of God, and that never changes. You're the beloved of God, and He wants you to be treated in that full He wants to treat you in that full dignity, and He wants you to treat all of His other children in that same dignity, and He wants you to treat others and others to treat you in that dignity. Now, to say, and we know again that to say this culturally different is contentious. So you can't go out and now say, okay, whatever I want. That's part of the culture. So, I care less. You could. I'm not saying you are. I'm sorry. It's not that. But you say, oh, this is cultural. To behave this way, or to dress this way, and therefore it's right. What we want you to challenge, and we know this is a prayer group, God has nudged your heart already. So when you hear things, we want you to go into prayer and ask the Lord where He wants you to increase in that virtue. Where does He want you to go? And I'm sure, especially if you feel a nudge, or if you feel a little ping in your conscience, prick in your conscience, God is already nudging you to go a bit further. Let me tell you an extreme example now. Maybe it helps to talk in extremes. So I have started teaching in a school that's very Catholic, and for their staff, there's a staff policy. We have to dress in skirts or dresses, and that cover our knees while we're sitting, and our what do you call it?
Neckline.
Yeah, the neckline, the décolleté. It doesn't go 2 fingers below our collarbone. And and so we're covered from shoulder to knee or whatever. Oh my gosh, it sparked a reaction in me, like the same that Angela described. I was put off, it's like, what is this? Are we, we're supposed to be wearing burqas now? But funny enough, I found, and I said, Lord, this is, and this is my conversation with God, is that this is too much, what is this, But then I went into prayer, and and this is it. This is what we are inviting you to do in your situation. I'm not saying this is the rule. I'm saying this is an extreme case. I'm just showing you what can happen. So I said, Lord, this seems to me really harsh. And he said, try it out. And what I found is actually you can dress quite smartly, even with those rules. And the fashion provides, and there's a lot of people who can say, oh, you can't dress whatever way because it's just not available. You can't buy that. I found even those rules, you can find really smart clothes, and I can look really smart. And I found so much of freedom following that, because I know that whatever I do with the children in school, there's nothing going to be flashing. That's an extreme. I'm not saying that is the modest rule. And the Catholic Church does not give the code to modesty, because it is a virtue and you're growing towards that direction. But I'm saying what happens is when you speak to God and when you're really listening to him, he will give you nudges for your heart. And they might be challenging, but you know what? It's actually leading to much, 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 much bigger freedom. And the thing that puts you off now, if you are willing to search and go beyond it, you'll find that there's a lot of freedom that you will receive following Jesus and following his nudges.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I don't know, somehow I'm getting the feeling that the word protect, I don't know if it's been understood properly in what we're trying to convey. When we say protecting yourself, I'm talking about protecting the intimate center of a person. And we're talking about it in the context of saving it up for, or not saving it up, of revealing it, your entire personhood, your entire person. Obviously, inevitably, this is linked to chastity and everything else. And this is just a drop in the ocean of what we've touched right now. It requires your own research and everything. But hopefully this can open your eyes to, open something for you to go forward with. When we talk about protecting yourself, it is about protecting your intimate center so that you can reveal it in all its glory to the one that it is meant for. And when we talk about protecting, it is protecting, as someone very beautifully mentioned, it's like revering it and honoring it, rather than like an attempt. It's a very shallow way to say that it's to protect. It's not just that, to protect from harmful eyes. It's not just that. It's something that you're holding and you're preciously holding on to, so that it can be revealed in the correct time and place to the person who is capable of understanding it and upholding it and absorbing it in the way it is meant to be appreciated. I don't know if that makes sense.
So within marriage, is that what you're hinting at? Yeah.
Yes, within marriage.
And also, if you're single and you're dressing in a certain way, you're saying, I want to be seen as in the dignity that God created me to be. I'm not up for grabs, or I'm not. And even in your speech, have you interacted with people? I'm sure you have, who command a sense of dignity, who give you the dignity, and who also, ask for a certain type of dignity back. So there are different kind of people, and some are up for certain type of jokes and going down that lane, but some, because they respect you so much, you can't help, but also respecting them. And that is like a little hint of how people rise to their dignity.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, this is just an invitation to continue your journey. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for all the questions. We're just a little bit over time, but I think that final question was very interesting, so I wanted to listen to the end of it.